Hello Aquarius, my name is Keith Haswell and I'm a professional astrologer with 30,000 clients worldwide, 145 YouTube videos. Welcome to my video. I'm going to share with you some things now about yourself, Aquarius, and about the moon phases that you'll be experiencing in January 2015. The moon is what's called a fecundating agent. In other words, it is the thing that determines the growth of seeds out of the ground. The moon phases are very important, Aquarius. And the moon moves very fast. It goes through a house of your horoscope, 30 degrees of your horoscope in only 2.5 days. So it goes through all 12 signs of the zodiac, all 12 houses of your horoscope in only 28 days. But it's its relationship to the sun that is important, that gives the moon phases. And because the sun moves 30 degrees every month, it means that when it forms a conjunction with the sun, it forms it in a different location in your horoscope than it does for somebody else. So Aquarius, it's going to form a new moon, what's called a new moon, in your horoscope in a different house of your horoscope than it does for Aries or Taurus or Cancer or Leo or whatever. So that's a particular message for you, Aquarius, about commencing and starting new projects at the time of a new moon, when the sun is in conjunction with the moon. And then when the moon gets opposite to the sun, it's called a full moon. And that's a time to consolidate things that you've commenced and started in the previous couple of weeks. So what I'm going to do for you, Aquarius, on this video is to help you to understand some of the influences that you're experiencing in the month of January 2015 in terms of the moon phases and what it impacts that's going to have upon you and your life and your decisions and your choices. You've got a tremendous sense of duality in your nature, Aquarius. You feel very different from everybody else. You've asked yourself many times, why am I so different from everybody else? You're an air sign, so you're very communicative, but you're very, very deep, and you spend a lot of time thinking and reflecting upon scientific things and things like New Age philosophy and stuff like that. So you sometimes feel as if you belong on another planet. And I'm going to look at the movements of the moon in relationship to your horoscope, which is different. It forms a conjunction with the sun and therefore a new moon in a different house of your horoscope than it does for others with different signs than yourself. So you just sit back and relax, Aquarius, and we'll have some fun together here. Now, there's first of all a full moon commences on the 4th of January. So on the 4th of January there is a full moon, and that means that that's a time to consolidate over the following couple of weeks. A full moon is a time to consolidate that which has been commenced or started since the 22nd of December. So from the 22nd of December through to the 4th of January, you've had an opportunity to commence and start projects and ideas, and you have been able to then consolidate things from the 4th of January onwards until the next new moon, which falls on the 20th of January. Now, the house that it sits in is a message from the universe to you alone, Aquarius, about something there to do with that particular house, because it falls, that new moon and that full moon falls in a different house for you than it does for the other signs. So that's a particular message from the universe to you about where you've got to perk up and take notice of something there about that particular house and the activities associated with that particular house. Now, what you've got to remember here, Aquarius, as well, is that I'm giving here a generality because I don't have your birth chart in front of me, and therefore I don't know your age. And so I might be talking about children and things like that, and that won't mean anything to you if you're 18 years of age. I might be talking about romance, love and social activities and so forth, which is not going to mean anything to you if you're 65 years of age and happily married. And so therefore things are going to be different from your own personal horoscope, which I don't have in front of me now. Okay, so this must be understood to be just a generality at this stage. So we got the 4th of January, the full moon falls in 14 degrees in Cancer. 14 degrees in Cancer, and that happens in your 6th house. Now that means that there's a message there from the universe for you, Aquarius, to do with the 6th house, which is the house of the job. It's the house of health and dietary matters and co-workers and things like that. So there's a message there from the full moon on the 4th of January that is a message to you about the 6th house. And what that means is that things that you've commenced and started in the previous 2 weeks to the 4th of January have now got to be consolidated over the next 2 weeks. So it's not a good time from the 4th of January to make a change in your job, for example. It's not a good time to commence and start different diets and things like that, or different exercise regimes and things like that. It's a time to consolidate things that you've commenced in the previous 2 weeks to the 4th of January. So it's a consolidating phase, not a good time for making a change in your job and so forth. Now then the next one is the new moon, but that's much more important, is the new moon phase, and that happens on the 20th of January in 0 degrees Aquarius. Now that happens in your 1st house. Now that's very, very important, because that's in a different house for you than it is for a Taurus or a Cancer or a Leo or a Virgo. So there's a message there about this new moon phase for you, Aquarius, on the 20th of January. Now what that means is that from the 20th of January there is a message there about your 1st house activities, and the 1st house activities is commencing and starting new projects and ideas that are self-initiated efforts. So it's a very, very powerful message to you that you've got a wonderful opportunity over the following 2 weeks to commence and start new projects and ideas, and to plan things out carefully and to get things going over the following couple of weeks. So it's a new moon phase there over the 2 week period from the 20th of January, Aquarius. So it's time to make hay while the sun shines, what you might say, and to get that project started, to make those changes within yourself that you deem to be necessary, and to make commencements and starting of new things in your life that you can commence and start from your own initiative. Now then I want to look at the movement of Jupiter for you, Aquarius. Jupiter is at 23 degrees in Leo, which means that it's in your 7th house. So Jupiter has been there for about 9 months now in the 7th house of your horoscope. So perhaps you've formed a new relationship in the last 9 months, or you may have gone for a distant journey with a partner if you're in a relationship. There's been a tremendous sense of happiness there in relationships for you, and a consolidation of relationships, and general expansion of both you and your partner if you're involved in a relationship during the last 9 months. But Jupiter is retrograde in the month of January. Now what that means is that this is a different impact now, and it's trying to deliver a message to you, Aquarius, about the 7th house. So in other words, when Jupiter is retrograde, it means that you can have bad judgment during the month of January. You can have bad judgment, particularly with regard to relationships. So it's not a good time for you for making changes as far as your relationships are concerned. It's not a good time for separation. It's not really a good time for you to commence and start new relationships. It's not a good time for making decisions and choices together with your partner, because there could be some bad judgment there with Jupiter retrograde. Now not only that, Aquarius, Jupiter being retrograde impacts upon 2 other houses of your horoscope in a negative fashion, and that is the 2nd house of finances and the 11th house of friends and group activities. So that means that decisions and choices that you might be tempted to make in the month of January, because Jupiter is retrograde, could be having bad judgment associated with it. So it means that you've got to be very careful about decisions and choices that you make about spending money, or major decisions that you're making about money matters and financial matters and investments and things like that. Be very careful of your judgment. Analyse your judgment. And also to do with 11th house matters is to do with friends and group activities. So you might have bad judgment in terms of your relationship with a friend. Be very careful of new friendships that you form during the month of January, because there can be bad judgment, there can be secret activities, there can be deception on the part of the friend, and it could be some unhappiness come from that, through that bad judgment. So that's just one aspect of things that are going on in your life in January. Another thing that's going on is Saturn. Saturn is in transit, and it's in 29 degrees Scorpio, which is in your 10th house. Now, it's been there, Aquarius, for the last couple of years, okay, in the 10th house of your horoscope. So you've already experienced the impact of Saturn being in your 10th house for the last couple of years. So there's perhaps been illness or death of a parent in the last couple of years. There's been frustrations tied in with government departments. There's been difficulties for you and frustrations to do with expansion in business and in career. So you've had a lot of frustrations over the last couple of years with Saturn there in the 10th house of your horoscope. Frustrations through parents, frustrations through government departments, frustrations in your career, and frustrations to do with business. So that's about to end now as Saturn moves out of the sign Scorpio into the next house of your horoscope, which is the 11th house, and I'll talk more about that when I do the moon phases for you for February, okay? So that just gives you a little bit of an idea of what's going on there for you, Aquarius. Now, by now, there's possibly my website address has popped up on the screen, and hopefully you've written that down. You've got an opportunity, you see, you've got an opportunity now to make a step forward in the evolution of your consciousness, because you haven't found your way to this video, Aquarius, by accident. You've been brought here to this particular video because you are ready to make changes inside of yourself, changes that you weren't ready to make a month ago. Your higher self has brought you to this particular video because it wants to deliver a message to you about an opportunity for you to expand your understanding about the nature of reality and your place in that reality, and to make changes inside of yourself that your higher self wants you to make. So you've now got an opportunity to go and visit my website, and I'm not trying to sell you anything in my website because I'm trying to give you something away as a gift. I've got 12 CDs there out of my first book, What Really Matters on Astrology, Meditation and Reincarnation, available for you to download from my website. And you can download CD number 1 and you can listen to that and see what you think. If it doesn't make any sense to you, no harm done. And if it does make sense to you, then you can download CD number 2 and listen to that, because that's a message that your higher self wants you to take on board so that you can become more of who you really are. And from time to time I do offer what's called a free horoscope number 1. Now, I can't always guarantee that this is going to be available because I just get flooded with orders for these, and it means I've had 40 orders in one day, for example. That means I've got to do 40 charts, 40 horoscope charts in that one day, and then analyse that chart and give a 7-page report, because there's individual things in your horoscope, not to do with your sun sign or your rising sign, that's a generality for everybody who's Aquarius, but it's to do with the moon, the location of your moon in your horoscope. And the moon rules your emotions, Mercury rules your mind, Venus rules your love nature, Mars rules your energy levels. So if I've got time, I'll be able to do your horoscope number 1 free of charge for you. That means sending you your chart so that you know what your rising sign is and everything, and also sending you this 7-page analysis of the location of the Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus and Mars in your horoscope. That tells you a lot about you individually, not just a generality, okay? So, but as I say, go to my website and see if that's available, because it can't always be available. And if it is, well then submit your birth details and I'll send that to you in a few days and help you to become more of who you really are. So I thank you for your attentiveness here, Aquarius. Subscribe to my videos, and because I'll be putting out a couple of 100 videos, or 150 or so videos in 2015, and all designed to help you to understand yourself more and become more of who you really are. And I look forward to working further with you should you decide to go visit my website and take up the opportunity that your higher self wants you to take up. Thank you.